So thank you for sharing that perspective. And again, this is Men's Mental Health Month, and we're talking about mental health and wellness. It's also Father's Day weekend and Juneteenth. And so we started this discussion about how to encourage, how to motivate fathers who may be struggling with some mental issues, such as depression, anxiety, and stress. And so a lot of these things come about as a result of relationships. And this is what you were just listening to Michelle speak to about the relationship dynamic and how that may play out between two adults and their kids, how that may lead into a stressful situation on both sides. One of the things I want to say in terms of relationships in general is that we have to have understanding. We need to be respectful of each other. We should hear each other. It should always be a dialogue, where we are able to communicate. Because sometimes folks have difference of opinion. I agree with you about gender roles. My wife, however, may not agree with gender roles, right? And so we have our dynamic and we have to deal with it. So I agree with you that there are definitely certain expectations, the way I was raised, that you would have of the father, certain expectations you would have of a mother. But in 2022, those things aren't how they were 30, 40 years ago. So again, navigating these changes really speaks to, how stress, duress, anger, resentment emerges. And those things also play out in terms of your own health, your physiological health. Just don't think that they're separate. If you are having physiological problems, 9 times out of 10, you have a correlated mental concern. If you are having a substance use problem, 10 times out of 10, that is a result of some sort of mental issue that you have. Because the substance is a form of escape. The only thing that purpose that serves is escapism, for you to escape. And we have many forms of escape now. We have the cell phones that we use as a form of escape, smartphones, we have television, we have so many different things. So when we're struggling with our mental well-being, one of the things that we need to figure out is how do we find our center, how do we find our place? Earlier when you were going through your yoga instruction, it was mentioned to commune with nature. And it doesn't cost you anything to go outside in your backyard, take your shoes off, walk in the grass. It doesn't cost you anything to sit out, listen to the birds. We live in South Florida. We have beautiful weather. It doesn't cost you anything to go to the beach. The things that we can do that really will play into our own mental health and well-being. And something that we can do that also will stimulate positive dialogue between family members. It's all about the environment that we put, the energy that we put out, and that's what we receive in return. So I want you to just think about that and be mindful of that as we go forward. My next question is going to be, and Jackie, you were talking about this from a substance abuse perspective. How do we support the fathers who turn to substances to cope? And these fathers are coping, using these coping strategies that are not productive because they can't really deal with some of the stress, anxiety, or depression that they're facing. So I'd like to start with you, and then others can pitch in. You can talk about it from a healthcare perspective, father perspective, and a relationship perspective.
Thank you. Yes, and that happens a lot. It's hard when a person who's using any substance is still in the denial that they're, you know, what's the term? A functioning alcoholic, functioning drug addict. There's no such thing, because the person outside of that atmosphere can well see that they're not functioning because there's something missing. So they're in their denial, which means you're not going to get that person to seek help if they don't believe they need help. However, the start would be with the person who has to endure that, because it's not going to help that person to be on the addict or alcoholic, constantly reminding them that they're a drug addict or alcoholic, because again, words can kill. And all they're going to do is continue to feel like a failure, like they have nothing to offer, like this is the best they can do. And we don't want to do that, because that's not the truth. However, if you seek the help that you can find, a lot of partners to people who are using, they become very codependent. So it's kind of like if you had a partner who had cancer and for the last 3 years you're taking care of that person and doctor's appointments and medicine and this and that, your life is evolved around that person. It's the same thing with an addict or alcoholic. Your life has become so consumed with what they're doing that you no longer have a life of your own. When they're good, you're good. When they're bad, you're bad. So you have to detach yourself from that. And the only way to do that would be to find a support group, to go to Families Anonymous, Al-Anon, Celebrate Recovery has, our groups have codependency. And what I've seen is when a person starts taking care of themselves in that space, sooner or later, their commitment and investment in their recovery starts to open up the eye of the person who's struggling with chemical dependency. Because now you're not treating them the same way. You're not enabling them anymore. You've now set boundaries for yourself. You are not babysitting them anymore. So now what happens is they can't blame you, because it's very normal for a person to blame your spouse for my using. And what happens is finally they have to look at themselves. And that is so critical, and the majority of the time, that's the seed that starts to take root, where they realize, I think I need some help. And then they will ask their spouse or their partner, so what's this group you go to? Or, hey, you know what, I've been listening to some stuff and I think you might be right. Or, you know, they'll have a crisis, and then that may be where they're finally open.
So Jackie, what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, you have to guide them to a place of self-discovery. So by taking care of yourself and getting the support that you need, then hopefully the person who you become codependent with can see that, okay, there's a change in you, so maybe there's some things that I need to do to change. So it's not telling them directly, but being an example for them to follow. Yes. And so this is a way that you're saying that if you have a spouse or a significant other that's dealing with some their own mental issues, and their coping strategy is through using substances, that you can model certain behaviors for them to guide them towards getting some sort of support and treatment.
Yeah, because you know, talking down to them is just, again, going to make it worse. But encouraging them for the good things they do, and then just continuing on your own journey. It's not that you're ignoring what they're doing, you're just changing what you're doing. And that's the difference.
All right, so this next question is for you. And I want to, yes, and I want to, how do you encourage, now we're getting into this wellness piece, how do you encourage, you know, someone, your spouse, we're talking about Men's Health Month, spouse may be a little bit overweight, loves the fried food, you know, loves to drink, and that sort of thing. You rub your stuff. Loves to drink, you know, he loves his churros. So how do you encourage or motivate this person that you see that is is not looking like the person you met initially. And things are changing in terms of their attitudes, beliefs, and actions. How do you encourage them to do some of the wellness stuff that you do? How do you motivate them to do that?
Well, the first thing that I say is things are going to change on the outside for all of us. It's just a matter of how. Like, you know, we all are going to grow and evolve, but it's a matter of like what we're doing to make that happen. Like you said, the fried foods, the lack of movement, the alcohol, and things like that. What I would recommend is, I mean, very aligned with what you're saying, but when you show people the opportunity or give them a glimpse of what exists on the other side of where they're at, and through health and wellness in particular, it's not about reading stats and then you can kind of see it's about experience, it's about feeling it, it's about having the before and after, which is why I asked you all, like, how do you all feel right now? And you notice things about the differences in your mindset, right? And the pain that went away in your lower back, and just things like that. So when you have the experience, because some things you just can't describe in words, then that's an opening. It's like a door that opens, right? And so the more experiences that you can provide for someone in which the result is them feeling good about themselves, feeling more confident, having some better outcomes, whether it's, oh, now I can play with my kids, now I can walk up the stairs, now I don't only have to look for the parking spot that's closest to the door, I can walk an extra block, all those different things. You want to kind of stack success. So stacking success, even if it's small steps, and especially small steps, those stackings can lead to a building as tall as the Empire State Building, right? But you have to keep building on top of the little things, because again, health and wellness and really shifting our mindset from the aesthetic, meaning what we look like and that as an outcome, to what's going on inside of us. And the only way that you can find out what's happening and the status of your health is by going to the doctor.
Yes.
It's not about how you feel. You can feel great. I remember after my son, I felt great for the most part, but my blood pressure was really high. And I would not have known that unless I went to the doctor consistently. So doctors appointments, and I also want to point out dental health is really, really, really important and so overlooked. It has huge implications, both on our body and on our wallet if we don't keep up with it. So things like that, starting a practice, even if it's a practice of moving your spine all 6 ways like we did when we were doing our yoga, and then stacking the small things, and forgetting about the aesthetics and just really focusing on how is my heart working, how is my liver, are my kidneys okay? Like those are the things that matter, because those are the things that when you're not here, when speaking of the roles, and I'm probably more like, I'm a 2022 wife, so things are not as clear as what you're describing in my household. We kind of share mixed roles and responsibilities in my household, and it works for us. But getting yourself to the doctor, getting yourself to learn a new skill, maybe it's cooking, maybe you learn how to use an air fryer. Like, these are things that people need. Like, I'm just a big fan of, this is a people skill. We are humans, we need to take care of our bodies. And so it goes beyond the aesthetics, it goes into the numbers, and it goes into the impact that we have. And when our dads aren't here, to your point, they are missed, whether they originally live in our homes or not. So whether they're missing in action because of their barriers and obstacles, or whether it be because of their health and they're just not literally alive anymore, which happens a lot, that impact is felt generationally as well. So I think keeping in touch with your why, building and stacking on small successes, and just knowing that it's really about what's inside that matters. And I just want to speak to what you said, because I know we're in a new generation now where you have two parents and both people have to work if they are in the home, and just even living in Miami where it's very expensive. So I'm not necessarily speaking to the fact that, you know, the father is the head only person responsible for like being the provider, but you'll always see, no matter what happens in a family, you'll always see dominance in one particular side or the other as to far as who carries what. And that's the point that I'm making, and just making sure that when we really think about the father's role, you will see dominant areas that are very clear. Like, we're not gonna be able to move an entire home by ourselves. We're not equipped to pick up big cases of boxes, and you know, there are certain things, you know, I'm sure there are, you know, women that do lawn care and maybe, but there are certain things, and so I'm just saying, remember that fathers have a significant role. I think in the times that we're living in, I think when people, again, get together, they don't set expectations for what their relationship is gonna be like. And so now we have these situations where missed expectations, unmet expectations really cause a demise in the family. And so I just wanna make sure that that's clear, because you'll see it even in all sorts of relationships, that there is a dominant person that's doing one thing, there's a dominant person that's doing one thing, but I'm saying definitely there is a role for the father to be in alignment and in making sure that everyone is heading in a direction that is safe, that is, you know, things are taken care of, and that the young people that are in that home really understand, like, the reverence and things that need to happen in that home. And I don't think those things change, because parents really are the guiding factor. Caregivers in the home are really the guiding factor for how children end up, you know. So I just wanted to make that clear. So I know you said that too, and I just want to make that clear.